Zuberia, somebody has joined the Teams meeting, okay, as a guest. Can you check? This was our internal Teams meeting.
I will check, Raja. Okay, I'm not there on that Teams meeting, so I'll figure. I think it must be Dheeraj.
Hello, Vidisha, can you hear?
Yes, sir.
Can you start the video while people join? I'm getting messages from people that they are in joining. Way means somebody has started to fill the form. Somebody somewhere. We already see 19 number, but let's play the video, no problem.
Sure, sir.
And you can maybe play it 2 times because it is 2.5 minute video while people come, no problem. Share the right screen of the video and play.
CIO Club is an initiative of CIO Association.
an association of CIOs by CIOs and for CIOs. CIOs of Indian enterprises has formed the CIOKlub, registered as the CIO Association. CIOKlub is a non-profit and the largest association of chief information officers in India. It is registered under the Indian Societies Act. CIOKlub was formed in 2008, and from one chapter in 2008, CIOKlub has now grown to 10 chapters over the years. We now have chapters in Mumbai, Delhi NCR, Chennai, Bangalore, Pune, Coimbatore, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Kerala, and Ahmedabad. From a humble beginning of 30 CIOs in Mumbai, it has now grown to more than 1,800 plus members across the country. CIOKlub is governed by a governing body and the chapter managing committees which drive the CIOKlub objectives nationally. Our technology partners leverage this strong platform to showcase their products and services to the CIOs. The key objectives of the club are to share experience, enhance knowledge, and explore better business solutions by leveraging the collective wisdom of a large number of CIOs who are registered members. The primary objective is to drive the business benefit to the organizations of the member CIOs and also help CIOs in their professional growth as effective leaders. The club also encourages entrepreneurial spirit by providing a platform for sharing and generating innovative ideas in the larger interest of the community. CIOs from every industrial domain indulge in this endeavor for the evolution of the IT community. Today, CIOKlub is poised to scale up in terms of location spread, breadth of membership, and building new alliances to bring international best practices within the reach of the community. International club relationships are being built. One such initiative is CIONet. Members of CIOKlub get free access to a wealth of knowledge and opportunities to network and mark their presence in the international community of CIOs. More emphasis is being led on knowledge sharing, and also avenues of spreading this knowledge to other members of the IT departments are being set up. CIOKlub is actively working with industry bodies such as NASSCOM, CII, ASSOCHAM to ensure that the CIO community has a voice in such forums. We have also constituted special interest groups on IT security and digital transformation to strengthen knowledge and experience sharing in these two critical areas of information technology. We are working towards a welfare program and executive education program for CIOs, and it will be launched shortly for all the members of the CIOKlub. So, join the CIOKlub and start learning, sharing, and caring. For more details, visit us on CIOKlub.com. Follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. CIOKlub is an initiative of CIO Association, an association of CIOs by CIOs and for CIOs. CIOs of Indian enterprises has formed the CIOKlub, registered as the CIO Association. CIOKlub is a non-profit and the largest association of chief information officers in India. It is registered under the Indian Societies Act. CIOKlub was formed in 2008, and from one chapter in 2008, CIOKlub has now grown to 10 chapters over the years. We now have chapters in Mumbai, Delhi NCR, Chennai, Bangalore, Pune, Coimbatore, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Kerala, and Ahmedabad. From a humble beginning of 30 CIOs in Mumbai, it has now grown to more than 1,800 plus members across the country. CIOKlub is governed by a governing body and the chapter managing committees which drive the CIOKlub objectives nationally. Our technology partners leverage this strong platform to showcase their products and services to the CIOs. The key objectives of the club are to share experience, enhance knowledge, and explore better business solutions by leveraging the collective wisdom of a large number of CIOs who are registered members. The primary objective is to drive the business benefit to the organizations of the member CIOs and also help CIOs in their professional growth as effective leaders. The club also encourages entrepreneurial spirit by providing a platform for sharing and generating innovative ideas in the larger interest of the community. CIOs from every industrial domain indulge in this endeavor for the evolution of the IT community. Today, CIO Club is poised to scale up in terms of location spread, breadth of membership, and building new alliances to bring international best practices within the reach of the community. International club relationships are being built. One such initiative is CIONet. Members of CIO Club get free access to a wealth of knowledge and opportunities to network and mark their presence in the international community of CIOs. More emphasis is being led on knowledge sharing, and also avenues of spreading this knowledge to other members of the IT departments are being set up. CIO Club is actively working with industry bodies such as NASCOM, CII, ASSOCHAM to ensure that the CIO community has a voice in such forums. We have also constituted special interest groups on IT security and digital transformation to strengthen knowledge and experience sharing in these two critical areas of information technology. We are working towards a welfare program and executive education program for CIOs, and it will be launched shortly for all the members of the CIO Club. So, join the CIO Club and start learning, sharing, and caring. For more details, visit us on CIOKlub.com. Follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Okay, thank you, Vidisha. Thanks so much for this video. And all the CIO friends, a very hearty welcome to all of you. Nice to see you all on a Friday evening. I know all of you are eagerly looking to take some rest on the weekend. And this is a day today where we have two of the industry greats. And okay, somebody said I should open my video. I will do that. I actually wanted to be behind the scenes because we have two great leaders here today with us. And anyhow, welcome. You can see me in my Friday attire. So, and so what are we going to do today? So we will be talking the traditional security things with some bit of knowledge, fun, and some lucky draws. Before we open the or hand over the session to Mr. Satyavrat, a great leader from Indian IT fraternity, let me inform all of you about few house rules which are very important. One, at the end of the whole session, we will be running our traditional Kahoot thing, and we have 10 plus 2 or 13 winners to be taken from there. So make sure, just like every session, listen very carefully and understand the things that are being discussed here in next half an hour or so that all of you will be very be able to easily tackle the Kahoot challenge that will be there. Number one. Number two, as one additional initiative, our speakers will be delighted and be happy to answer your questions or doubts, and they will be taking a decision on the three very good questions that all of you will ask. Now, so how do you ask your question? Is to make sure that what you ask is known only to you, not to the whole world. So make sure not to type your question in the chat window, but use the question and answer a link to type in there so that it is visible to our analyst. They will be the judge to decide who has asked a very good security related question. And my advice is ask a very specific thing. Do not make it too generic or too open or a very common type of thing. Be specific. You want to ask to the use case, you want to ask on the services, on the product. Just be very specific what exactly you want to ask. So I will take the privilege and honor of handing over the session to a senior leader, Mr. Satyavrat Mishra. We all know him as Satyavrat, commonly a very popular face in the security circle of India. And right now he is AVP and corporate CISO at Godrej. We all know the organization, but we surely want to know what goes behind the scenes to make it safe, secure, and how Mr. Satyavrat Mishra, who is known for strategic IT transformations. And the good part is that he excels in one area which many of the IT traditionally the people lack, which is how to show a business case, how to show ROI of your security. And no wonder he has been able to make good use cases within his organization and his circle to convince the authorities higher ups to invest in the security side of it. He is an IT evangelist, a leader who has worked all his life on IT strategy, operations, infrastructure, security, while steering the digital transformation. He has a very high cross functional strategic experience, and he is also expert in resource consolidation. So, Mr. Satyavrat, my humble request to you to take the session. We welcome you all, and the members of the CIO Club are eagerly waiting to hear from you what you did, what was your challenge, what was the problem statement, and what exactly has happened behind the scene to make sure that the front end works smoothly. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you very much for such a big and nice introduction. And good afternoon to all of you guys. So I'm going to take around next 15 to 20 minutes to talk about the zero trust concept as well as what we are trying to do in Godrej, right? And then subsequent to my presentation, then Raja will take over and talk more about what color tokens is offerings are and how they can actually help ensure that an organization can adopt zero trust across the spectrum. So very quickly, starting with why we have to change our way of working and why do we even start thinking towards zero trust. The background to this is that traditionally all the organizations in last couple of years have invested heavily on the perimeter based cybersecurity, right? But if you look at the history, these are all investments, and the architecture that was designed was actually pre-cloud and pre-digital era. And in those days, typically any organization would have a large data center which is either within the office premises, or they would co-locate, and then it will be heavily guarded with a lot of products with firewalls and IPS and IDS and all those kind of security solutions. But the way things have changed in last couple of years, and especially with the digital transformation that has been taking place in last 2 3 years, this entire perimeter based cybersecurity approach is no longer relevant to the enterprises. And one of the biggest example that we can see, and if we look at the history and try to take any lesson, the biggest lesson, and I'm sure by now everybody would have guessed what this is, the city of Troy and the Trojan horse itself, right? So since 1260 BC, the perimeter-based security model has been failing, and still, a lot of organizations are still, continuing with this, despite the fact that we see so many, cyber attacks and breaches across the organization over the world, right? And this is the reason, why cybersecurity needs to undergo a change, because if we believe that we have a very secure perimeter, it's a big misconception that we are living in. While perimeter security provides, a lot of these solutions, which individually might be very good and best of breed solution, but one of the biggest reason why these solutions fail is because of the lack of integration or coherence, right? While you might have a very good firewall and IPS and IDS device, DLP solution, but if you want to look at overall holistic picture of your organization, that is where these traditional architecture and traditional solutions really fail. And this actually brings us to the current scenario. If you look at last 1.5 years, where all the organization had to start working remotely, which was a big change across the world. nobody actually ever thought that, for 1.5 years, 2 years, people will have to continue to work from home. And what it has actually taught us that even after the pandemic is over, and eventually I'm sure that in next 3 to 6 months, things will start coming back to the normal as well as far as COVID-19 is concerned. But it would have changed the way organizations are going to work, even in Godrej, and I'm sure that in your organization also by now HR would have started working on a strategy of how the hybrid workplace will be going forward. Lot of positions, lot of job profiles we may not see coming back to the office, and we might continue to ask them to work from home, especially even in say in our organization we are looking at maybe the application support team and a couple of other resources might continue to work from home, because if the things are working fine, why to ask them and sit in the office. So globally, if these numbers are to be believed, around 26% of the global workforce, that is what we foresee, is never going to come to the office again. And there is going to be obviously huge, increase in the remote connectivity requirement, because even if the people start coming to office, the way they are going to work is not going to change, right? So while they may be working from office for a couple of days, on other days they might be working from home. So this remote connectivity and accessing the critical application from unsecured environment is going to continue. And the another thing which has happened during this pandemic, and I'm sure that it is going to continue in terms of trend, is increase in the BYOD. At one point in time, this is one topic which used to be considered as taboo. But given the fact that all the organization did not have any way of providing devices to 100% of their employees, endpoint devices, laptop, etc., many organizations have actually allowed in certain way, at least, to allow people to start using their personal devices for certain set of applications. And going forward also, we see that these kind of trends are going to continue. Now, in these circumstances, it is important to see that why traditional security frameworks and these technologies have been rendered inadequate. So one of the biggest challenge that we see with the traditional cybersecurity approach is that it was, perimeter driven. And in today's environment, when every organization is adopting cloud and SaaS and IaaS, the perimeter itself is vanishing. It might differ from one organization to another, but the fact remains that most of the organizations are in some way adopting cloud, right? And it can be a SaaS-based solution or it can be a traditional IaaS solution. But that traditional approach of putting a perimeter-based security around your data center, that in itself is not going to be valid for couple of going forward it will not be valid. Another challenge that we foresee is in terms of the way traditional security organization or SOC team work. They rely heavily on the detect and response mode, right? So all of these logs which are generated into SIEM, and then it generates a lot of these tickets which goes into the SOC team, and then they try to find out what is the problem, and then they take action. By the time they realize that something is wrong, already it might be already late, and that is the reason why this kind of traditional security approach is not going to work going forward. Another problem with this approach is obviously the siloed nature of these traditional solutions, which do not have proper shake and between these solutions, and in terms of the maintenance, which is going to be very high because of either these are hardware based inflexible solutions, or managed by different vendors. So because of all these challenges, the traditional security framework is going to be inadequate in the future. And that is what brings us to a newer concept, which is like if you look at a submarine, a submarine or a Navy ship is actually designed, and in the important term here is the assumed breach. So these ships and submarines are actually designed that at one point in time they are going to be breached, right? And that is the reason why they use a concept which is called segmentation, so that in case if something is stuck, for example, a torpedo or anything, still the entire submarine is not going to be submerged in the water. The water can be contained in a partition. And that is what we see, sometimes in movie, that first thing that people do is, close the hatch whenever there is a, attack that happens. So this is the, basic premise or the concept, which now that security is adopting and, which is one of the basic premise of the zero trust approach. And that is what we are going to see in subsequent slides. So what basically segmentation and isolation is going to bring to the organization is survival. So, this is one of the example where, ship was hit by terrorists. But despite the fact that, there is a breach in the hull, the ship never submerged in the water, right? So this is one of the example that if ships can survive this kind of attacks, the organization can also survive attacks in case if they are clearly micro-segmented. So this brings us to a question. I am sure that by now, you would have heard a lot of definitions on zero trust and what is zero trust, etc. But the important things that I am going to, put forth, zero trust is all about that you need not trust, any of your employees or the devices which are connecting to the network. You must always, and every time they try to connect, you must verify and provide as much least privilege that is possible. So these are the three key tenets, of the zero trust, which the modern security approach, propagates. Obviously, the key thing in zero trust is that there's no concept of implicit trust, which has to go away, and any
Did we lose Satya?
there is no office premises to work. If people are connecting from home, how do you ensure that the person who is actually trying to connect to your network is the same person who is trying to post, right? So that is the reason why it is important that the organization change their approach and adopt this zero trust model. Now, this is very important, a paper which was published by NIST. It is called NIST 800-207. And it actually defines that what are the different ways in which organizations can actually adopt zero trust. So they give these three basic pillars. The first pillar is about the enhanced identity and governance, right? And I'll speak on this in the subsequent slides. And the second pillar, which is micro-segmentation. That is what we spoke about when we looked at the example of submarines. And the third is the SDP itself, software-defined perimeter, or the JET-TNA architecture that we talk about. So any organization that is trying to start a journey or has already started, obviously would start on any of these three places. The first one being the simple one, or rather, you can reuse some of your existing solutions to start your journey when it comes to enhanced identity and governance. It may not require a lot of additional investment, etc. To do this, because if you have solutions like privileged identity management, multi-factor authentication, all these are examples of enhanced identity governance. The other piece, the important thing is that, the importance of zero trust. You can see that even the White House in their executive order has asked that all the government organization in US must adopt this zero trust approach. And when we look at the yearly study that is done by IBM and Ponemon Institute, they have found that the organizations that have already adopted zero trust approach, their cost of breach is significantly lower than the organizations which are still running on the traditional security approach. So these are the three key pillars of cyber security, and then we will talk about how Godrej has adopted cyber security, how has been our journey. So typically, we started this around 3 years back because of the surge of the digital adoption, and Godrej being because Godrej Industries Limited itself is a conglomerate and has got 5 different businesses. We have operations around 14 different countries. There are hundreds of different applications. Some of these applications are country specific, some are common across the businesses. So it was really very challenging to provide the right kind of access to each of these set of business users. And that is the period when we started, along with the basic cyber hygiene in terms of multi-factor authentication and PIM solution, which also are the important pillars of zero trust. So this journey started around 2-3 years back, and now what we are doing is so we have completed the two pillars that we spoke about, and now we are working with Color Tokens on the pillar 3, which is very, very important, which is the micro segmentation piece. Now, the micro segmentation in itself is the most important thing, because if you look at the current scenario and the ransomware attacks, one of the reason why any ransomware attack is such disastrous for the organization is because they do not have to have access to each and every application, each and every server. All that attackers would do is just have access to one single laptop which will connect to one server, and rest of the work is anyway taken care of the internal network itself. And this is the reason why most of the ransomware attacks, you find that hundreds of servers got encrypted, and so much ransom had to be paid, etc. The only way to mitigate this problem is by doing the micro segmentation, because the traditional approach so far has been that you can define DMZ and MZ and create VLANs, you can create firewall policies. But if that was the case, then I'm sure that by now such big organizations which have been breached, I'm sure that they all must have done all those kind of network based segmentation, and still they were affected in such a bad way. So this is the approach that Godrej has taken, and we are working closely with Color Tokens team in implementing this across the entire server farm, either in our private cloud or on public cloud. The important thing here is that when you do microsegmentation, not just like one single perimeter, but you across each of the clusters of application, then you identify the set of users who would be required to having access to these application. And then the other important thing which is possible and which earlier was never one can see, was the visualization itself. Many times you just rely on your network team, etc., to implement those policies. But it is impossible, because the way firewalls and those policies are there, it is not even possible to visualize that how these applications are actually talking to each other. And the biggest challenge that organizations face when it comes to this kind of attacks is of the lateral movement itself. So this is the one solution, micro segmentation, which actually helps in stopping that particular lateral movement. And even in the worst case scenario, if any of your set of applications or set of servers are impacted, at least it will be limited to that. It will not spread across the organization, right? So this is the approach that we are taking, and we are moving forward on this journey. And in terms of the objectives and advantages, obviously our objective is to create as small zero trust zones as possible, depending on the business needs of those specific user groups. And finally, the advantages that we see from the solution are the visibility itself. As I mentioned, for the first time, you would be actually able to see that what kind of application is talking to which other application, on what ports, etc. And then you can obviously take a call that whether such communications are even needed or not. It also helps in doing your attack surface reduction, because as I mentioned, it will prevent the lateral movement once you do this kind of micro segmentation. And your key application, which can be either SAP or any of your ERP solutions, all those crown jewels obviously can be secured through this. And finally, it also protects you from the insider threats, right? So in case if there are any rogue employees, or suppose somebody's laptop is already infected and they are trying to ingress into your environment or server farm, because of the micro segmentation, they would be limited only to the area where they have the access. So these are a couple of the advantages that we have seen so far using this zero trust approach. So I think that's all from my end, and now I would request Raja to talk about Color Tokens and how Color Token can actually help organization in implementing this entire zero trust approach.
2 seconds. Fantastic, Satyavratji. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your, I think you used two words, micro segmentation, more than 60 times in your talk, which surely means that something is very, very important about this micro segmentation. People have heard about it, but very few have implemented it. And I'm sure that as we move from one leader to another, let me introduce a favorite super duper name in the security industry, IT industry, Mr. Raja Okil. Many of us know Raja because he was spearheading the IT operations in the role of CIO at Wipro, one of the biggest organization in India, and not an easy task to secure an organization with 200,000 odd people, each coming from various areas, geography, backgrounds, IT knowledge, no knowledge, experts in security. Uh, So Raja right now is the SVP APAC and Middle East for sales and strategic partnership for the Color Tokens. He is leading the teams there. And before that, we all know that he was heading the global head for Wipro Cybersecurity and Risk Services. Words will be less to talk about Raja, but I would still take an attempt to do that to inform all of you that his unique value proposition in solving the client's problem, he has been on both sides of the table. One, how to secure a huge corporate, and now in his new role where he is heading and trying to really mix theory, practical sales, the real time situations that people face. And the advantage Raja brings it because he has seen it all. The discussion takes much less. The understanding of your situation happens faster. And Raja, we all know, is a magnetic personality, charmer. Whatever you say about Raja would be less. And just, Raja, give me 2 minutes because we see many more new members here who have joined in between. So, welcome to all the members who joined in between. Just for your information, we have the best prize for two questions which will be asked by you, not in the chat window, but in the question and answer window. And after the sessions are done, there will be a Kahoot thing. And make sure you listen very carefully to everything because the Kahoot thing will be from whatever is there. I already saw Jay has raised his hand to ask something. Jay, I will just request you to be there for, just bear with me until we hear Raja out. And Raja inputs might solve your doubt, but if it is still not there, we welcome you to ask the question. Thank you. Raja, over to you. We wait to hear
Uh,
from
Thank you, everyone. Good evening, I guess. Okay, so first I would like to thank the CIO Club for the opportunity. And Ajay, I feel very humbled with that introduction. Okay, so you know, and then I want to thank Satyavrat. You know, and we are happy that we have been associated with Godrej as a strategic partner to their Zero Trust security program. I have interacted with Satyavrat multiple times, and every time I speak to him, I get to learn something new. Even this presentation, we obviously had interacted and gone through each other's notes. It's such a simple and lucid way of explaining concepts, right? Sometimes we get very technical, and the message is lost. So thank you, Satyavrat, and thank you for all of you who have participated. I can see some old friends. Maybe we should catch up offline after the event. Uh, I have a very short presentation. We will tell you what we do, what we represent, what problems we solve, and a little bit overview of our solutions. I'll just try sharing my screen. Uh, Ajay or Satyavrat, please let me know if this is visible. Once it is visible,
Yes, it
uh,
is. We
okay,
follow. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, Color Tokens is a company uh, which was formed in late 2015, but we were busy building out the product till 2018. We love to call ourselves a startup, even though we are fairly large as a startup. We are upward of 400 plus employees and 100 plus customers globally. We are headquartered in the Silicon Valley, but we have operations all around the globe today. We are privately funded, but for anybody who is interested to know what is our journey, we are probably at a Series C funding level, right? So that's our evaluation today. So what did we do, right? We wanted to look at cybersecurity, very differently, as Satyavrat explained, right? That the perimeter model doesn't work, siloed technologies doesn't work, the defense and detect and respond doesn't work. So, our founders were very visionary, and they still are, by the way. So they decided to conceptualize this zero trust security model way back when they were on the drawing board in 2015. And they decided to bring it out as a SaaS platform, right? And not individual point solutions, because it would eliminate some of the complexities which you as senior IT professionals and your teams would face on a day-to-day basis, with the complexity of managing hardware, software, and stuff like that, and the ability to scale, right? And that was one of the drivers. Second thing is, and I'll speak about it slightly later. We wanted to bring the entire concept of zero trust into one unified, context-aware, and end-to-end security platform. And remember that the NIST definition of 800-2007 only came out, I think, in February of this year. So, this was conceptualized, and okay, Forrester had a definition, but, we came out with this much, much early. So what do? We combine micro-segmentation, which Satyavrat just explained, zero trust network access, which replaces VPNs, and we even take it down the zero trust concepts to the endpoint, and I'll talk about it a little later. And we are very proud today that we have industry recognition in terms of awards which we have won. RSA conference, which is essentially one of, or probably the largest forum for cybersecurity across the globe. We have been recognized as a very innovative company 3 years in a row, right? Ever since we started participating there. And now Gartner's, Forresters of the world, and IDG have started, recognizing us as a formidable player in this space. In fact, in the Q3, which is this quarter, there was a report which came out from Forrester on microsegmentation, the extended concept of microsegmentation. And we are now listed in a growth vendor. And I remember 6 months back, we were one of those early stage providers there, right? So it's been phenomenal in terms of our growth, and it's also that we are now in the bracket of providers who are at least 5-6 years ahead of us, much bigger in the marketplace. So that's about Color Tokens a little bit. But what is exciting is, Color Tokens in India, right? Unlike some of the, cybersecurity or IT startups, our founders, hail from India originally. So, and we decided early on to set up a very large India operations. So our engineering team, our customer success, support, deployment teams, are majorly based out of Bangalore and a little bit in Hyderabad. We also have a sales team, Shakil Khan, whom you see on the right side. He heads our India and SAARC sales operations. And he came from Zscaler, and he has worked with Fortinet. And we are extremely happy to have him in Color Tokens. And we have a major presence all across India. The way we are structured is we address regionally. So we address the West, we address the South and Bangalore, and we also address the NCR and NIST region from Delhi. We have, today around 25 plus odd customers. It's slightly dated here in India itself. So it spans across almost all industries. When I say IT services, it includes ITES. So, BPO is another industry where, we see a lot of momentum going in. so across the board. And also we have a significant number of partners which we have partnered with, because we are fully cognizant of the fact that you might have existing relationships. And I have just named a few of them. These are the big ones, Ernst & Young, Wipro, Tech Mahindra, HCL, TCS. But there are, partners like Hitachi and the lot, and even reseller partners across India. So in a nutshell, we have a significant presence in India. Now, coming over to our leadership team, I thought it was best to put their pictures. This is also available on our website. Dr. Nitin Mehta, he is the co-founder and the executive chairman of the company. He is an erstwhile McKinsey alumni, and he was the first Indian investor in the US, right? So he has, I would say a long list of successful startups which he has started, and they have gone on to become large companies. But his heart lies in cybersecurity, and he is the primary investor into this initiative. Rajesh Khazanchi, who is our co-founder and CEO, was heading product management at VMware. Vats Srivatsan, who joined us about 6 months back, came from Palo Alto Networks. He was the chief strategy officer there. So, in a nutshell, we have a very strong leadership team. And, Ravi Purohit, who is not here on this meeting today, he heads our India operations, and he is based out of Bangalore as well. And this is our board member. Obviously, we have other advisors to us as well. Dr. Tony Scott, apart from Nitin and Rajesh, Dr. Tony Scott, he was a CIO at VMware. He was the CIO of Microsoft. He was a CIO of the US government before he retired, and he is now running his own venture. He is a full-time board member with us. Arjun Malhotra, you would probably relate to him a lot. Arjun Malhotra co-founded HCL along with Shiv Nadar, so he is on our board. And Abid Ali Nimuchwala, was my skip level manager, and he was essentially the former CEO of Wipro. So in a nutshell, we have a strong presence in India. We also have a very strong leadership and an executive board, which is there to guide us as well. So jumping on, I know I'm conscious of time. So, what do we do? So as I told you that we solve this more holistically, right? So as Satya defined, zero trust, it brings in contextual, we bring in contextual visibility, right? Across workloads, applications, interactions between workloads and applications, data flows. And we create an unparalleled visibility. We overlay that with vulnerability information. We overlay that with threat intelligence, and something which probably all of you will aspire to have. And then we have a significant amount of automation by which we help create microsegments. Remember the submarine? So we help create that, and then we create policy and enforcement. The second part which we have integrated here is how do users access, right, applications? All of us know that there were two things historically which probably was in the non-digital or pre-digital era. One was the perimeter, and the second was VPN-based access, and this became a real challenge during the pandemic because simply VPNs are not secure. They provide inbound connection from the internet and things like that. So this is zero trust network access, where it is inherently much more secure. It authenticates users dynamically at runtime, and whether the users are on-prem, whether they are remote, or any third-party users, which companies like yourselves will have, like contractors, etc. And the third thing which we then did was took this down to the endpoint level. The endpoint has not been well served. That for a long time there was antivirus solutions only, which typically would scan and look at known bad. Then we had EDRs coming in, and now we have XDRs, which works on typically two things. One is IOCs, or indicators of compromise, and it works on AI as well. But this is detection, right? what we have done is we have taken the same segmentation or zero trust concepts back into the endpoint. We have ensured that there is much more capabilities where you can put zero trust policies at the endpoint as well. And and I'm proud to say that we are globally the only platform or only company which provides all this into a platform. The second thing which has happened is we have built out all this grounds up. Some of our much bigger peers in the industry have gone through acquisitions, and they have struggled to integrate, and none of them have been able to successfully integrate their acquisitions and make it a seamless product experience for any of you customers, right? And that's why that's there lies our advantage. And because we are a SaaS, we can make enhancements very quickly and change those and upgrade those environments without having to interrupt your business operations in any manner. So really, if you see some stats around Gartner peer reviews, right? Best in class customer satisfaction, NPS scores of around 92%. We have around 28 patents, and we have measured that risk reduction when you start deploying within the first 6 months itself, it could range anywhere between 40 to 60%. But what do we do is, within that same platform, there are multiple capabilities or modules, if you will. So we have X Shield, which is the micro segmentation product, which basically works across, data centers, your private data centers, private clouds, co-located data centers, and even public cloud data centers, right? Something with Godrej today is using from us. The second solution which we have is X Protect, which is where it goes down to the endpoint. So, we even protect airport specialty terminals, right? We protect point of sale solutions, but we also put it on servers and user endpoints. Now, what we do here is essentially we follow a very sophisticated whitelisting, blacklisting process. So it's not about application whitelisting, blacklisting alone. We also offer process level whitelisting, blacklisting. And then the third thing which we do is we have very powerful behavior-based zero trust policies. So fundamentally to do two things. One is, we offer a significant protection against ransomware through this solution. And we also, make sure that we address another big problem, which is today's world, you cannot patch everything every monthly basis because people are at home, they are using BYOD devices, etc. So how can we lock down so that you don't have to patch every month? And the third solution which we bring together into the mix is remote access or X-axis, which basically works seamlessly as you are working in office and go back home. And what it does is it stops any inbound connection into your applications. So you don't need to have your applications exposed in DMZ. And I would go to that extent saying that you can eventually get rid of your NAC policies as well. So every application gets dark. Your users don't connect to the network. The users directly connect to the applications or the micro segment which they are entitled to. And that makes it extremely secure, right? So we integrate this with very tightly with micro segmentation. So we offer a very end-to-end north, south, and east-west protection as well. Now we also have a service part, though it is for customers who do not have the bandwidth to manage all this themselves. Is called X-Assure. So it's we do a lot of other enhancements. It's like an XDR solution which we provide on top of our technologies for customers who want to use this. And we have very advanced MITRE ATT&CK frameworks which we have mapped, and we can protect against those scenarios. And of course, if there is a preference for any customer to do the operations themselves, or they want to for some partner to do it, or their existing security partner to do it, we are open to that as well. And let me address one more before I switch over from this slide. I think m- many customers are worried about the fact, Forrester came out with the definition of zero trust in 2010, and people have been wondering, saying that why it has not got adopted so much that it's so obvious to do it, right? The reason was that it was very complex to deploy, and I saw a question as I was hearing Satyavrat that it is difficult to deploy. And whoever asked that question, let me tell you, this was this was true, right? But not anymore, right? So if you look at today, and why we say that is we have brought in a lot of AI and automation into policy recommendation, into tags, generating tags which are not infrastructure dependent, into grouping of applications automatically, and that makes the job of microsegmentation really really easy. The second thing what happens is that we also wanted to make sure that we take care of our platform two different things. One is that, or three different things. One is that we cater to data residency laws and privacy laws. So for India, we have a local tenant, not like some of the other cloud providers who are hosted outside India. So, financial services, the RBI, etc., mandate that data resides in country. So our cluster is based in AWS Mumbai, right? So, all data resides here. Second is we are compliant to, data privacy laws like GDPR, CCPA, etc. The third thing which we wanted to do was make sure that, people always ask me that, am I ready? Will this break something? The answer is no. We are not network or infrastructure centric, so we can deploy our solution without causing any disruption to your environment, so much so that when we put our agents on your devices, they don't even require a reboot of the systems. The third thing which we do is we also make sure that, when policies are defined, that, one doesn't enforce them immediately because it might break something, right? Because some communication might get broken. So we offer something called a very powerful, simulation mode, which is a what if mode, where you can see actually, right, what will break if I enforce this policy. And that helps in making sure that you don't miss out something like a weekly backup routine, which people are not even aware of possibly. And if I can, just give you an example without getting too much into the Godrej deployment. We started, when we first started, it started off with their corporate, Godrej is a multi-business unit and multi-business organization. When we started with corporate, we actually finished deploying microsegmentation in slightly under a month there, right? And it was that quick, just to give you a sense of what the ease at which we can do it. And this is my last slide. I'm sorry, I just heard my own echo. So, there are multiple use cases which you can use zero trust on our platform. You can start off saying that I want to protect my crown jewels because that contains my IP, my sensitive data, it could be anything else. So most critical applications with your environment, right? So that is one you can do. There are legacy systems, and we are very happy to let you know that, we support legacy like, nobody else does. We support AIX systems, Solaris systems, and, Windows 2003, all the way up to the current versions, right? So legacy systems, as you know, cannot be patched, so they are literally vulnerable. So we can isolate them, lock them down, and protect, protect an attack against an attack which might have happened. We can prevent, as I told you, we can prevent most effectively against ransomware and advanced fileless attacks. Cloud workload protection, right? When people are doing cloud migration, right? Our security policies actually migrate along with your application if you're doing a lift and shift. So this idea of having to redefine, reassess your security does not arise in our context. And I talked about, zero trust network access, which is a secure way of accessing private applications, public applications, and endpoint lockdown. So these are the use cases. With that, I know I have probably exceeded my time a little bit. I'll stop my sharing. Thank you very much again, and we look forward to your questions. Ajay, back to you, please.
Thank you, Raja. Thank you. 92% of a CSAT score. I was just thinking, when I have seen a security vendor getting that type of CSAT scores, and I was frankly failing to recollect anything like that. Wonderful. Thanks, Raja. Now, to take the session forward, while we see a lot of questions on the Q&A, and I'm sure Satyavrat and you would be eager to answer that, I am unable to type any question being on the analyst side, but I just have one question. In the zero trust model, whom are we trusting? The vendor, employees, IT guys? Any one of you can take it, and then we open the Q&A window to both of you. And we are seeing some very intelligent and very sharp questions there. But yeah, over to Satyavrat and Rajat for whom are we trusting?
Raja, you want to answer that?
Yeah, please go ahead, Satya.
Yeah. No, so obviously, because while we are saying zero trust, obviously you're relying on the vendor and the partner with whom you're working, and you're relying on the approach. It is not an individual or something, but you're relying on your overall approach towards zero trust, and along with the partner team or the solution, that you're planning to deploy.
Thank you. Thank you. So I hope both Raja and Satyavrat, you are able to see the question and answers. So feel free to go in whatever sequence you want. What sequence you answer will not decide who is the winner, but we can decide that piece later on. But right now, going by the quality of the questions or the one you feel should be addressed and answered to the audience, feel free to pick up a question. Just one request, since everybody is not able to see, just highlight what the user has asked before you answer.
Yeah, sure. So I'll just pick up one. So this is from Vijay Gurumurthy, and he has asked, microsegmentation is critical for security. However, do you think the implementation complexity may make the microsegmentation also as flat network and not used effectively? So I think Raja already touched upon this. So, I know that, most of the people, including me, we thought that this is really going to be too complex kind of implementation, but actually it is not. Because the first thing that you do when you go on a journey of microsegmentation is that you do the visibility part. You first start seeing, what kind of applications and servers are there in your environment, and what kind of communication is taking place between all those applications and servers, which otherwise actually there is no other tool that would give you. I mean, we all have been doing this firewall based policies and even in routers, etc., but there's no tool that would give you an actual visual representation of what kind of communication is happening. And that is the reason why the deployment is going to take a short time, because whatever you are able to see, and then perhaps it is easier to take a decision as to what you want to really stop, what you want to continue to communicate with each other. So deployment time, I don't think is a challenge in either of the solutions. I mean, I have looked at 2, 3, but even in color tokens also, we as Raja mentioned, we did entire, I think first phase we did 160 odd servers in around 1.5 months.
Thank you. Thank you, Satyavrat. Raja?
Yeah, so, I'll club 3 questions, but I'll read out. Okay. So Nagendra C, you have asked who are your present customers in FMCG segment. I can tell you Godrej is one, but rest, it will not be fair on my part without their specific approval to mention, but we can connect up separately to talk about it. Rajat, I'll come to Rajat's question a little later, but setting up Nasir, Nakash, you have asked, setting up rules on segmentation, containerization, especially on servers, is a huge administrative work. Does Color Tokens have intelligence to change these rules based on the access user behavior? And a somewhat similar question from Jay Thomas, microsegmentation is great to have. However, too much segmentation results in overlapping roles profiles. Won't this lead to being a business speed breaker for agile and fast changing organizations? Great questions. So I can tell you that, that's exactly, and I touched upon really quickly that we actually, it is not a huge administrative task. We have policy recommendations, north, south, east, west, right, peer to peer, user to server, user to workload, etc. And that makes the job of segmenting really easy. The second thing is you don't need to get granular. You have the option as a customer to decide, saying that I don't want to enforce very granular policies day one. I want to create a slightly broader segment, or I want to, for me, anything coming from the internet onto my servers is risky. So I want to enforce the inbound policies first, and outbound, I'll take my own time to do it. So all that is possible. Absolutely. Second thing, Jay, to your question, overlapping roles and profiles, please understand that, this is not a speed breaker, because, the telemetry we collect from your servers are, not in the data plane. So, for our technology to work, there is absolutely a negligible impact on your latency and performance of your workloads. Second thing is all changes, right, which happens as some new server comes in or some new user has joined in, it's very dynamically adopted, and those changes are super simple to implement. Again, I would love to take this up separately and understand what experience you have had and how we could help you on that. Satya, you want to take this? Any next question?
Yeah, I think I'll just take up this one. What is that? Yeah, I think so. Jay has asked another question. So, can you speak more on how did you measure ROI? That's one area IT leaders are challenged when it comes to going back to CEO board for security initiatives. So I think, yeah, I mean, this is a challenge not just in case of micro-segmentation, but for any product for that matter. I mean, obviously you'll start with the business case and, try to take approval. Most of the, cybersecurity solutions or any such initiative obviously would not give, we don't really follow basically, at least in Godrej, an ROI based approach in terms of, because obviously you're not generating, additional revenue, but yes, since you are trying to protect the organization, yeah, I mean, you can, we generally do give, some kind of benchmark figures that in case if we do not do this, what is the impact in our overall security posture. And so since we follow NIST kind of framework, we try to align everything within that, those 5 key pillars that, where these initiatives actually fit in, and, implementing this, how the overall posture is really going to help us, moving ahead in the maturity level. So that is the kind of approach that we take. We obviously are aware that in a year you cannot do everything, right? So, there are 3-4 key initiatives every year, and with the defined budgets, etc. I don't think getting a budget approval is a challenge within the organization.
Okay. So I'll take next set of questions, right? So the first question is from Rajat Goel saying, isn't zero trust application access better than ZTNA? Rajat, absolutely. It is actually zero trust application access. It's an industry term that it is called ZTNA. So when a zero trust access happens, it essentially is an access to the applications only, right? So, it could be to a web application, or it could be even an IT administrator doing an RDP into a server. Second question is, from Dharamjit Sarangi. Does your ZT product and service leverage existing investments in IAM, EDR, firewalls that are in place, or do you replace them? How do you integrate to the existing setup? For example, how to make a VPN connection with zero trust with your product? So, good question, Dharamjit. Absolutely. See, we have the necessary integration, so we integrate with your IAM. Right, absolutely. Because we authenticate users all the time during every connection. We also integrate with your, with your SIM, because we send the alerts from our platform also somewhere you have not enforced into the SIM. So we do integrations. What do we replace? We replace east-west firewalls. We can replace VPNs. Right, and it is specific to your context. We need to study and say what all we can replace. You have asked a very interesting question saying, can a VPN connection go with zero trust with your product? Now, ideally, I would recommend the replacement of a VPN with a ZTNA, but if you choose to continue with your VPN, absolutely, a user can connect through a VPN. but we can use micro-segmentation, and the user can be given access to a particular application. And in that scenario, the user will be treated like an on-premise or in-campus user. So absolutely, it can be made to happen. Vijay Krishna Iyengar, how to isolate the crown jewels? This is through micro-segmentation. To keep it briefly, right? You create micro-segmentations. You tag your applications. You create the visibility. You create micro-segmentations, and then enforce the policy. Satya, is there anything left? There is one from Raj.
I think the last question, what are the top 3 questions to ask when choosing zero trust provider?
Okay. You go ahead, please.
Yeah. So, yeah. So obviously, like any other product evaluation that we do, the first thing we also try to look at the references, where such kind of implementation has been done. We also look at what is the legacy, how old is the organization, how good is the product, etc. It is very difficult to say, these are the only 3 questions that you need to ask, and that will solve the problem. But yeah, I mean, these are some of the practical approaches that you would take, and obviously you would do the detailed POC before you finally take a call in terms of whether it is suitable for the organization or not.
Okay, so 2 very good questions. And these are probably the last. What's the architecture looks like? This is from Rajat Goel. Like for the solution, how does it change if we don't have data center and consume PaaS on public cloud, more than 200 plus SaaS apps platforms? What kind of integrations are available? So, I didn't talk about it explicitly, Rajat. So we today support applications which are VM based on the public cloud in terms of supporting microservices, containers, etc. This is in our immediate roadmap, and even cloud security, posture management, CSPM, site scanning or vulnerability management, misconfigurations, etc. is coming out, in the next 4 to 6 months time frame from us. And we will have integrations with all the 3 major cloud providers to begin with, which is AWS, Azure, and GCP. Manish, there is a question: what happens when the attacker manages to figure out, masquerade, and breach the zero trust? Right. It's a very good question. Zero trust is not the silver bullet that it will never, protect an organization 100%. And Satya probably can, corroborate that. But it reduces risk to the extent of 60% or more, slightly more, 60 to 70%. Of course, you need other initiatives also. So, for example, if you don't have multi-factor authentication, which is another pillar, right? The identity governance, you are living a very risky zone, right? Because ultimately, zero trust means if you are not trusting anybody, you are also trusting selectively, right? And you are dynamically trusting that. But it reduces the risk considerably. That's the whole idea. Second thing is, as I told you, as part of our service, we have very advanced use cases. So, we can track. We have 4 use cases which are deployed for our customers for tracking data exfiltration. So we can immediately do this. The third thing is, because we are, there was another question saying, do you offer the remediation or, orchestration to automatically solve this? We do provide, a quarantine of systems, one-click quarantine from our platform as well. That's something which we do really.
Hey, wonderful, fantastic questions and equally fantastic answers. I just have one last question from my side, if both of you allow. How easy or difficult is implementation of zero trust in an enterprise, and what practical challenges that a CISO or CIO should be ready with to take the pains into that?
Satya, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So as we saw that in zero trust, it is not just a single solution. There are 3 different pillars, and obviously the solution and the kind of approach that one has to take would vary, based on which pillar we are talking about. And first being the identity and governance. So that is one area which can be obviously the starting point, because without a proper identity governance, any kind of zero trust is not really going to be effective. And for that, while there are a lot of solutions, but if organizations have already spent on say Azure AD and all that, so a lot of solutions which are available within that, multi-factor authentication, etc., and solutions related to identity and governance. JTNA also, in terms of approach and in terms of complexity, I do not see that a challenge. Again, all that you have to do is identify your set of application and set of users. Typically, most organizations use AD, and that is really going to play a very important role in terms of creating those user groups and providing access, right? And then finally, the micro segmentation. As I already mentioned, that since it is completely visual representation, again there also whichever team is involved, I'm sure that once you do the visual representation, it will be far easier to understand what kind of segments you really have to create. Obviously you will have to involve all your application team and do it together with them. But while each of these are three separate pillars, and three different approaches can be taken, but it would be a good idea to ideally, if someone is kind of starting fresh, then I would prefer that they should try and see if they can work with a single vendor, because ultimately there are going to be challenges and complexities related to integration and management, etc. So that is what my recommendation.
Sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and if I can add, okay, so from our experience, I can tell you, right, and Satyabrat rightly touched upon it. This is like any other program, right? And probably if you do it across your enterprise, it's a large program. So effective change management and getting everybody on board is something which sometimes is a challenge. Say, for example, the application team may not have any context of what we are doing, right? So getting everybody onboarded, etc. The second is managing users. They have been used to a certain logging way into VPN. This is where they are logging in differently. Maybe you have restricted their privilege a little bit, right? So that is the second part of it. In terms of the other thing, which is also not a challenge per se, but asset management or hardware asset management is a challenge almost in every organization, and I can tell this from my experience. The moment you start putting out technology, you start visualizing things which you never knew existed in your environment, right? So therefore, then the knowledge of what this does, whom should it communicate to, and all that sometimes takes a little longer. But none of these I will attribute to be a very complex challenge, right? I think the worst, challenges of zero trust is behind us, as an industry. And while we do a good job, there are others also, who are also pretty good in this space.
Thank you. Thank you, Raja and Satyavrat. This was interesting session. We are just over the time, 1 hour on the whole session. Now over to the lady of the luck, Vidisha. Vidisha, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. And I would also like to play, so I'm going and picking my mobile to log into Kahoot as well. And yes, this is open to everybody, even people who have entered their questions, they also can come. Kahoot, okay, downloaded Kahoot, it is with me. What do I need to do? My Kahoot.
In the meantime, Satya, I would like you to have the privilege of selecting the 2 or 3 best questions from here, if that is okay with you.
Sure.
3 best questions.
2 best questions, yes. Okay, yeah.
3.
Yeah.
3.
Okay.
Yeah, Manish, whatever I had mentioned in the group, that would be the number.
Yes, sir, same numbers.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, 3 good questions. And Vidisha, what is the pin? Okay, 4868795.
I don't think we are eligible, Satya, you and me. Maybe.
Okay, let's play for fun. We'll give another 30 seconds. People to join in. This would be interesting. I would come last because I was focusing on too many things during this. Lucky, how many prizes we have? 10 plus 2, 12. Yes, Vidisha, let's go. What is stuck, Vidisha? Okay, what is leaderboard showing? Okay. 10 out of 10. Fantastic. Wow. Okay, winners. Ah, fantastic. Thank you, Vidisha. Thank you so much. So we will look forward to hear from Mr. Mishra on which are the top 3 questions. Maybe not now. You want to tell now? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just take. Do I have to read out the question? Because I have just taken down the names. So
Name is
there's-
good enough. Yes, name and the
Okay.
question, reference to the question, because people should understand what's the quality. That's all.
I don't know because I'll have to
Okay, no problem. No problem.
So
Name
I
is
think
good enough.
because a lot of people have asked more than one question. So
Okay.
3 winners that I can
I will
see is
make a note.
first is Rajat Goyal,
Okay, congrats, Rajat.
Jay Thomas,
Jay Thomas. Okay, he always
uh,
wins.
and Nasir. I hope
Naksh
I'm
Nasir. Yeah, Naksh
yeah,
Nasir.
no,
Okay, congrats, Nasir. Congrats, Jay. Congrats, Rajat. And all the winners for the quiz. While the screen has shown 3 names, we have 12 prizes there. Two of 2,000 vouchers and balance 10 of 1,000 each. Your prizes will be reaching to you through our lady luck, Vidisha. Thank you, Vidisha. Thank you, Raja. Thank you, Satyavrat. Any closing words, Raja? Satyavrat? You are on
Raja,
mute.
you are on mute.
No, I just wanted to thank everybody. I know we went a little over time, but this was a wonderful experience interacting with you. Satya, thanks a lot. Great
Thank you.
session. Thanks, Ajay and the CIO Club team. And, I'm sure that you know how to reach out to us or to Satya. Please feel free if you have any questions which you could not ask here. And we will be always there to, help answer those questions. Thank you
so
again.
much.
And all of you have a great weekend.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the attendees. You guys are wonderful. Appreciate your time. Have a great weekend. Be safe, man. Bye.
Thank you.